Hello, welcome to Speech Talk Live, Episode 4. My name is Jay Oza, and I'm the host of this program. And today we have Julie Finkelstein and Soumyan Tirumurthy, who will be facilitating a segment in this program. So, for those who are viewing this for the first time, we created this program or show, you want to call it, Speech Talk Live, to really, there are four objectives here we have. The number one is to learn. Speaking is something you're always learning because every situation is different. So it's one of those things you're constantly learning, and we all consider ourselves students here first. The second thing is speaking is hard. A lot of people have all kinds of fears. No matter how often they've done it, there's always that fear element. So the second thing is to provide support. People who have to give speech, to talk about the issues, and also if they have a speech that they're working on where they have to give it in front of a live audience, they can record it, and we can even give them evaluation. The third thing is to share. Like I said, we're all students, and we also want to keep on improving. So if you have recorded a speech, then just send it, and we'll give you our feedback. And the last is to teach. I think in order to be a good student, you also have to be a good teacher. So that kind of goes hand in hand. And we don't consider ourselves experts here, but we do have a lot of interest in public speaking, and we work closely with Coursera with their introduction to public speaking. So we mentor international students on the Coursera's on-demand platform, Introduction to Public Speaking. So this is our way of getting people who have interest to learn, support, share, and teach. And I'm based out of New Jersey in the United States. And the way this will work is we have three segments. The first segment is usually one of us will facilitate that, where we take an issue such as maybe fear of public speaking or how to give feedback or receive feedback, and spend between 15 to 18 minutes on that one topic. And today that first segment will be facilitated by Soumyan Tirumurthy, if we can get his audio working. The second segment is where we use it to evaluate one of the speeches that a member has sent us. And today, the speech we're going to be evaluating was sent to us by Penny Liu. Unfortunately, Penny cannot join us. She is based in China, and she cannot access Google Hangout. But she has sent us her questions and her information, so I will go through some of the comments she made that we would have asked her, but this is going to be done through me reading her email. And then she has asked some specific questions about her speech, and we will try to give her feedback. And the third segment is where we take a public speaker that has given a speech and see what we can learn from it, the good, bad, and ugly. And today I think I picked a really interesting speech. And this was a speech that this famous movie director named Steven Spielberg gave at some award that he received, where he tells a story of how he got into directing movies. And he has a really important message to the students whom he's giving this speech to. So I want to focus on that and then get feedback from both Julie and Soumyan, see what they have to say about his speech and overall when people are using stories. So that's the show. So at this point, let me now get the introduction, Soumyan and Julie, to introduce themselves, and then we'll kick off. Depending how Soumyan's audio is, then we may have to do some juggling act here and start with segment 2 and see if he can get his audio working. So let's see. We're going to do a quick test now. Julie and Soumyan. Julie, you want to start with your intro, and then we'll go to Soumyan. And if that works, then we can go in the right order, 1, 2, and 3.
Good morning. Thanks, Jay, at least for the people who are in the U.S. Yes, my name is Julie, and I am a mentor in this public speaking class. And it's very exciting for me to be doing this project with Jay and Somian. Outside of this class, I am working on this class. I am at the learning about the persuasive speech, and I have done the informative speech. I really like today's segment on feedback because Jay actually shared a video clip on the importance of how to receive feedback. And I think that is a key point that will help us to be successful at work, in our relationships, and in everything we do, even receiving feedback from ourselves. So with that, I turn it back over to Jay. Jay.
Somian, can you hear us? Okay, we still cannot hear you, so we have an audio issue with you. So I don't know how we're going to get that fixed. So at this point, Julie, what we're going to do is, I can't hear anything he's saying, right? Is it me or you can't hear? Okay. So at this point, Somian, what we're going to do is we're going to move to, I'm going to introduce segment 2, and we're going to start with segment 2, okay? So I'm going to take a little pause here and start segment 2. 1 second. And let's see, I'm going to just, okay, let's see. Okay, so I'm going to now introduce the segment 2. So let me just take a brief pause here, okay? Hi, this is Jay Oza, Speech Talk Live, episode number 4, segment number 2. And in this segment, we're going to evaluate a speech that was sent to us by a member. Her name is Penny Liu from China. And I have provided the link so you can view it and provide Penny your feedback. Unfortunately, Penny's based in China and she cannot access Google plus Hangout. So what she has done is she has sent us her questions, and I'm going to read those questions and then we'll open it up for a discussion. So let me just kind of give you a little brief background of her speech. So Penny is currently taking a course, on-demand platform course by Coursera called Introduction to Public Speaking. And one of the speech that the students are required to do is impromptu. An impromptu is like a 2-point speech where you have a main idea and then you support it with 2 points, and then within each point that there are 2 sub-points. That's the typical structure of an impromptu that the students learn in this Intro to Public Speaking course from Coursera that was created by Dr. McGarity from University of Washington. So the question, typically the way we do it is whoever wants their speech to be evaluated live and get the feedback, what we ask them to do is kind of give a little brief discussion of their speech. Then we ask them to talk about their speech, the process, typically takes between 2 to 3 minutes. Then we ask the speaker to talk about what the speaker thinks that he or she did well in that speech and what he or she feels that she could improve upon, okay? And then the 4th question we ask them is, what specific questions do you have from us so we can give you the proper feedback that you're looking for, rather than give you feedback that you may not be interested in and it may not help you to improve your public speaking. So let me just go through the first one. So I think what Penny said was, and I'll just read her quote, the first one, this brief description, said, "This is an impromptu speech and the theme is MOOC, peer review system improves the quality of the courses it is used in," unquote. So what she's saying is her speech is about, quote, MOOC peer review system improves the quality of the courses it is used in. And she goes on to say, all right, I choose this topic because I personally feel uh, personally for it. I think it can also reach the audience who have taken the courses. One thing I should point out is, and Penny says it in her email, that English is not her first language. So I'm going to read directly what she has said it, but it's not an indication. Don't interpret because English is her second language. So I'm not going to edit it. I'll read it exactly the way she has written, but I just wanted to let you know that that she has said that to in her email. And then I asked her what was the preparation like, and she said for the preparation process, I didn't prepare much. It is almost my first draft since I want to make it a real impromptu speech. Although I could quickly come up with the two main points, I experienced great difficulty thinking about supporting examples. Well, that's why we got to keep doing it. So that's a good point. I think she's talking about that this was something she kind of put together quickly. And in real life, that is exactly how you would do an impromptu. Okay, so we can talk more about that. Then she said, I mixed up question 2 and question 3. That's how I prepared for it. Okay, so that's she's talking about it. I think I did well in the invention process. The two main points collaborate with each other and didn't overlap. But I think the first point is a bit broader than the second one. I'll say the 2 points subordinate with the topic and illustrate that sufficiently. The support for each main point is too short. I cannot think up strong evidence and examples to support them. Okay, those are good points. For the organization part, I used a lot of conjunction words like firstly, secondly. This helps me to clarify the organization of the whole speech. I remember that professor likes to use the phrase beyond that. This appears in almost every speech he gave. I think it's more natural than mine. It'll be better if I can organize the speech well without the help of firstly, secondly. The part I'm most dissatisfied is the internal structure of each point. I really don't know how to connect the examples back to the main points. So I want to ask you specifically on that part. Okay, so we can give her feedback on that. For the delivery, I hope my hand gestures didn't distract you. I have several peer review feedback that points to my hand gestures. The overall delivery is fine, apart from the fact that the sense of closure is not enough. Okay, so then she has some question which I will read later on. So at this point, Julie, I'm going to go to you. And did you get a chance to watch Penny's speech? Yeah, do you want to give her, so I read some of the comments that she made. What was your overall impression of Penny's speech as far as she's asking about her organization is concerned, her overall, let me just get your feedback on her overall speech. What was your feeling?
Okay, thanks, Jay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Show me thumbs up. Okay, great. Yes, first of all, I think Penny's speech was very well organized, and I agree with her overall assessment. You just want the general feedback now?
Yeah, general feedback, and then we can go into specific things on how she can improve on each of the points, because I don't want to give her just feedback without telling her how she can make it better.
Right. So I think there is some spontaneity that's good, and I actually like her use of first and second because it helped me to locate what she is said until she becomes more better at contextualizing her conversation, her speeches. I find that her hand gestures were not distracting, but one of the things is hand gestures should help to emphasize certain points. And I find that it did not do that because it was constantly there. So I will suggest that look at her hand gestures. And finally, my major conclusion, like the one advice I will give her was to talk about the closure and the conclusion. And so I agree with her that there's not enough there, and I will hold the details of that part to later. Okay.
Right. Okay. Those are excellent feedback. So let me give you my overall impression of her speech. I think she's Penny. Let me just tell you, you're very brave for sending us your video. A lot of students have this opportunity and they don't do it. So I want to congratulate you for recording this speech, because you're actually on your way to becoming an excellent speaker. And the only way you do that is by recording it. The first big move you have to make is hit that record button and then be willing to get the feedback. So let me just tell you that what you're doing is actually really going to help you, because until you do that, you're not ready to improve. Okay. Uh, I think you're a very confident speaker. I did not see any nervousness when you're speaking, and that's an excellent sign. So you are able to communicate your point without getting nervous. A lot of people can't even do that, and it shows. I did not notice it, and when you see a speaker nervous, then the audience immediately stops paying attention, and they notice that her nervousness. You have a very easy style of communicating to people, which I really like, and your voice comes across very clearly to people. So some of the areas that I think that kind of now I can understand why it showed the way it is. One thing you did mention is that this was an impromptu, so you kind of didn't really prepare for it. I think you do need to prepare for it. Okay, so even though this is an impromptu, when somebody asks you an impromptu, you really should have prepared for it ahead of time. That's something that course doesn't tell you. Like if you're in a meeting, certain questions you have to anticipate are likely to come up. So it looks like you're not prepared, but in reality, you are prepared. Okay, so that's one thing. And you kind of made it clear that this was sort of your first time. If this was your first take, then it's a really good job, because first take for this speech, you did an excellent job if this was your first take. The one thing overall with the speech that I noticed, and I had to read it, view it a couple more times too, is the whole subject. You're calling the speech a peer review system. When I view it the second time and third time, I'm saying that the speech is not really about the peer review system is part of it. But I think what you're really trying to say is the whole online community that facilitates learning. I think that is the main idea of this speech, not the peer review system. The peer review system is the first point, and then the second point is what you're saying here is how it encourages you to finish the course. So that's how I viewed it. I said, wait, when you said this is a peer review system, I thought that there would be 2 points on the peer review system that you did have, the immediate feedback and the discussion forums. But then when you went to that second point, I'm not sure, and I'll have Julie comment on this. This is just my impression. I'm not sure that is part of peer review system. That's part of an online community that helps you learn and finish the course. Julie, do you have any comments on that? Is that how you interpret it, or are you okay with the main the thesis of it, that this is a peer review system?
Jay, actually, I agree with you, and Penny, I think your points are all really good, and actually Coursera itself is struggling with the idea of a community. And for example, your topics are fine, they integrate well. It's just a question of how do you title the speech. So for example, I could call it peer support and feedbacks in ways to improve online learning. Peer resource, another possible is peer presence in the forms of discussions, feedback, and forums and reviews to help me learn. Something like that may be more in alignment with the scope of your talk. But I just want to again emphasize the scope of your talk is quite integrated as a whole, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah. I just think that the reason, I think if she views our feedback and even views her speech maybe a couple more times, I think she would probably pick that up. The reason I'm pointing this out, Penny, is not as a way, because the main thesis is very important. If your main thesis is not going to be, it's not going to have a right supporting arguments, then people will not pay attention or feel like you're not convincing, or you may not know what you're talking about. So it is very important to stay focused on what is your main point and make sure that the supporting argument is actually supporting the main point, that they are not something completely different. And I think if you watch this, and you will definitely will correct it. So this means that, let's say you are, like you said, that this was your first take. You don't want to say things even in a meeting if you do not know what you are saying. Just because somebody asked you, hey, Julie, can you give me an impromptu on something she doesn't know about? Like, then she should just say, I don't have a lot to, not that I don't have a lot to say, but you don't want to say things that are not, that's going to make you look like you don't know what you're talking about. So you want to be careful that impromptu is just a structure, but the knowledge part you already have. You just now extemporaneously putting that structure together quickly. That's why it's a 2-point speech. So overall, I think, Penny, this was a very good start. I think you are really have a lot of positives here. I think anything that needs to improve, I think, needs more practice. And I think with practice, you're going to get better. And you even indicated that this was your first take. But I think you just keep recording these videos and keep self-evaluating like the way you sent us your feedback. And I'm pretty sure that you're going to keep on improving. Julie, any closing thoughts?
No, I agree. And you are a natural speaker, Penny, and you're very well organized. So you have those two really good skills. You can think organized, and you can communicate that clearly. So you have the foundations of a great speaker tools. Thanks, Jay.
Okay, so at this point, we'll close out this segment and move to the first segment. And let's see. Somin, can you say something, or you still having audio difficulties? Okay, it looks like he has audio difficulties. Who just joined? Let's see. I cannot get the name.
Pydiraju.
Okay, you want to say something, or you're just going to listen? If you're going to listen, just put your mic on mute so that way we don't pick up any background noise. And at this point, I'm going to take a quick break and introduce the first segment, okay? And I think Somin still has audio issues. Okay, that's fine. Pydiraju, yeah, that's fine. You can listen in. And if you want to just put anything on the chat, you're welcome to. Otherwise, just give us your feedback, okay? So I'm going to take a brief pause, and then I'll introduce the first segment that Somin was supposed to facilitate. Maybe he can type in his chat if he has any questions or anything, and then we can just use that. This is not the right way to do it, but at this point, because of technical difficulties. Okay, I'm going to give him another fresh link. Sorry about some of the technical issues we're having here today. This is what happens, you know. You have to be ready for anything. And I'm going to send it to him right now. Okay, I just sent you the link, Somin, so if you want to get off and try to get in again. And in the meantime, I'm going to take a quick pause and introduce the first segment. Okay. Hello, this is Jay Oza, Speech Talk Live, episode number 4, and we are going to move to segment number 1. And the first segment we usually use to pick an issue that people are having so that they can improve their public speaking. And last week, if you watched this program, we focused on how to provide feedback. And Soumyan Tirumurthy facilitated that session, and he had quite a few points on how to provide good feedback to a speaker. And this applies to anything, not just a speaker. It could apply at work, it could apply in just about anything, but we're focusing primarily on speech because people, I have this joke, and I don't know if you find this funny. I said, there are two things, that there's a thing common between a person with having a bad breath and being a bad speaker. You're the last one to know. And that's typically what happens, that when you're a bad speaker, nobody comes and tells you, hey, you know, that was a bad speech. You'll never know, okay? And that's the point of this this show we're doing, that you better know here than find out there, okay? Because nobody's going to tell you. And when you're dying on stage, they don't rescue you, okay? You're dead. So anyway, enough of that. Let me get off my soapbox. So today's segment is on receiving feedback, and that is very important because one of the things that we all face is we all want to learn and improve, yet at the same time we want to be accepted and respected the way we are. So how do you do that? You know, that's where the conflict occurs. When you ask somebody for a feedback, you have to be really set it up in a way that allows you to receive that feedback. And it isn't as easy as it appears, because most of the time we're not good at receiving feedback, yet we think we're very good at giving feedback. So how do you receive feedback? Okay, so there are a lot of different things that you can do. So let me just tell you what we do on this show, because there's like a push and a pull, right? Most of us think that if let's say Julie or Peter Raju was asking me a feedback, I'll just say, here's what's feedback. Let me just tell you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And most likely, you're not going to receive it. You're just not ready to receive it. I don't know anything about you. You don't know anything about me, and you're not going to receive it. You're going to probably say, you know what, that's nice. It'll be polite, and that'll be the end of it. So the first thing to do is, what we do in this thing is, we don't really just give people feedback. We let speakers who come on, and the second segment that we did before, where we evaluated Penny Liu's speech. If Penny was on live, we would have asked her to describe her speech, and then let her self-evaluate how she thinks she did, what she did well, what she thinks she needs to improve, and then let her drive the discussion on how we can help her with some specific targeted question. And I think that does seem to work, okay? And I'm not saying that we are experts on this, but that way the person who really values the feedback is the person who needs to receive it. And if you're driving that process, then I think that is going to be effective. So at this point, I'll shut up and I'll have Julie comment on what is her take on what is the best way to receive feedback, since I've given her quite a few feedback over the time. And Julie, give us what do you think about it? What is the best way? How do you receive feedback?
Okay, I'm on. Thanks, Jay. So how do I receive feedback? When I was working, one of the feedback I got was that I am asking for too much feedback. So I think I tend to, on the whole, at least in a business environment, I tend to solicit feedback, and I think I take it pretty well. To me, to take a feedback, there is 3 components. One is who the person giving me the feedback is. Second one is what knowledge I'm going to get from it, just information and data. And the third thing is, I guess 4 things, how I feel about it, and then it says something actionable. So the person who's giving it to me, giving me the feedback, affects how much information I take, because if it's someone I respect, I will clearly take more information in. If someone's giving me information, so in terms of the knowledge of the data, if it's something I want to know and I have a curiosity about, then I'll naturally be tuned into it more. And then my own feelings, do I feel tense or relaxed or open or curious, engaging? I can tune into that with a lot of my bodily processes. So one of the things, as you know, is my passion for meditation. So meditation gives me many self-awarenesses in terms of my own states of being. And finally, if it's someone I respect, information I want to know, I feel good about it, then it says something actionable. It says something I need to do. And so that's how I take feedback.
Yeah, no, those are all excellent point. One thing that I will add, and this is something that came up last week when we had Latesh, and we were giving him feedback for his technical talk that speech that he recorded on Stage Gates. That can you mute your mic, Julie? Thanks.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
yes.
because I'm getting some feedback there. Feedback in it. That's not the feedback I want, by the way. Anyway, enough of funny stuff. So one thing I noticed is that after we were done, I went back and reached out to him on two. I think I might have even included you on email. Some things that I didn't get a chance to discuss because we had limited amount of time. And I just realized that feedback is not like one and done. You really have to, the person who's giving you a feedback kind of has to be somewhat invested in improving you. And a lot of the times after you give a feedback, you come up with new points saying, oh, you know what, there's some more thing that I should have added. There's some more things. And what that means is that if you're receiving a feedback, you should be open to that. So, like for example, right now, if you say, Jake, can you give me some feedback on like how this show is doing? Right now, I haven't really given a lot of thought to it, so I may give you something quickly. But then later on, if I'm thinking more about it, I may come up with more points. And what you want to do is create that safety that, hey, I understand this is a quick feedback you're giving, but if you think more about, if you think more any more ideas on how I can improve, I'm open to know about it. I'm open to listening to you. And I think that's also very important because I don't think oh, Julie, can you hear me? Julie, can you hear me? Okay. Okay. You have any comments on what I just said, or you didn't hear me?
Hey, hey Jay, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the feedback. Okay. Yeah, Julie, go ahead.
I didn't hear what you were saying. That's when you were muted.
Oh, okay. I must have accidentally hit something. Okay. No, no. My point was, again, sorry about that. We're having all kinds of technical issues, but hey, that's part of learning. No, what I was saying is that feedback is not a one and done thing. That whoever is giving you a feedback, you want to make it clear that if let the person know that if you come across any more ideas on how I can improve, let me know, so that it's a continuous process, so that the person is kind of invested in really helping you to improve, because this one and done feedback sometimes isn't going to be that helpful. You want that person to also give some more thought to it later on, if that person really wants to help you. So that's how I look at it. When somebody's giving me a feedback right away, I'll take it, but then I also want that person, I want to see how invested he is in helping me improve. And if that person is that invested, then he'll come up with more points. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes I've given you some feedback later on saying, hey Julie, this is something I just realized that may help you. And that's the type of feedback I also look for.
Yeah, yes, Jay. I think that this is a very powerful idea in the sense that the feedback is not a single event, but it's a continuous loop, because that's how evolution happens. And so one of the things I would like to see happen is in the peer review system as it sets now, that there's ability to have a continuous loop on the feedback. The other thing that I think would be very useful, and it's always using complex systems and artificial intelligence constructs, is the idea of a meta feedback. It's a feedback on the feedback process. So you've kind of initiated that when you say, tell me what you want feedback on before I give you feedback. I think there are other aspects to the meta feedback, such as let's do a continuous loop. Give me your feedback and I'll tell you how I like the feedback, because then I become the feedback giver and it helps you to improve your feedback. And that is what I mean by continuous loop and the meta feedback process. And I think those are the two key elements to improve a system. And the human beings are intelligent systems. So I think those are very good points for the feedback system. Thank you.
All right, those are excellent points. I think at this point we've covered this quite a bit. We're going to have to revisit it because feedback is a topic, especially when it comes to receiving feedback and also giving feedback. We can still, there's a lot to talk about there. So at this point, we'll move on to the next segment. That is the speech that Steven Spielberg gave that I sent you all the link to. So at this point, I'm going to take a brief pause and then come back and introduce the third segment. Hello, this is Jay Oza, and you're watching Speech Talk Live, episode number 4, and we're moving to segment number 3. And this segment number 3, we're going to review a speech that this famous director that you all know of, Steven Spielberg, gave at some award that he received. And I got this link, YouTube link that I sent to all of you, and it'll be included, that I really highly recommend you view it for a number of reasons. And the main reason I picked this speech to review today is that he receives an award, but he doesn't really have a speech. And he even says that in the beginning, that, I didn't really prepare a speech, so what I wanted to do was, he tells a story. Okay? We always hear the importance of telling a story. And this award, I think, he has received is from a university, I believe, and these are probably students who are probably interested in film industry. I'm assuming this, okay? So what he tells them a story is how he got started in the movies. And he talks about at the age of 6 or 7 when his father took him to see this movie. And remember, he's 6 and 7, and he describes it. It's really vivid. And his father said, I'm going to take you to a circus. And as it turned out, it was a movie about the circus called The Greatest Show on Earth. It was a movie by Cecil B. DeMille. It's a very famous movie that came out probably in the late 50s, I believe. And he was smitten when he saw this movie. It's like when does things start? Like, when was the point where you said, wow, this is what I want to do? And somehow he knew it at the age of 6 or 7. I still don't know what I'm doing, so should learn from him how he figured it out at the age of 6 or 7, and that's why he's such a great director. And what really got him so interested was in that movie there was a scene where there's a collision that takes place between the two trains, and that somehow just caught his attention. Like, wow, how did that happen? How did they make that happen? So then he goes and tries that. His father kept on purchasing or giving as a gift those electric trains, Lionel trains, and he kept on crashing it, like, duplicating that scene that he saw in that movie, Greatest Show on Earth. And then he found that, I can't keep on breaking these trains. After a while, his father said, I'm not going to keep on buying new trains for you. So he said, then he noticed that he had his 8mm camera, and he said, what if I tape it? If I videotape it, if I take a movie of it, then I can keep watching it over and over again. I don't have to keep on breaking these trains. And that's what he did. And that's the story he tells, that's what his first movie was. Having these two trains crash, toy trains crash, and he he recorded that in this film, and he kept on watching it over again. That was his first film at the age of 6 or 7. And then he describes how he made a film when he was in the Boy Scout to receive a merit award with some cowboys and Indians related story. So anyway, these are, when you look at it, are pretty simple stories, right? We all have a similar story like that at some point in our life that we can tell. And he tells it in such a vivid way with so much passion that you want to listen to it. You're really saying, wait, this is really interesting. But there is something more to it. He uses the story to convey a very important message, okay? And the message that he wants to convey is that we all dream about things. You know, we always dream like, oh man, I wish I could be a doctor, or I wish I could be a cricket player or a football player or whatever. But it's not going to come to you like a shout, like, you gotta be a doctor. You know, your mom might say that, but it's not going to come from your, from the back, like he says, that the whisper, it's going to be a whisper. And when you hear that whisper and it kind of tickles your heart and you're paying attention to it, then that probably is your life calling. And that's the message he wants to convey. And that's how he got into movies. He had that whisper telling me, hey, Steven, you're cut out to be a director. You're cut out to be a director. And after a while, he was listening to it. And that's what he did. And that's how he became this, the famous director that we know of him as today. So I think that stories are extremely important. They're very effective in conveying information and making sense out of things. And if you do it well, you are an excellent communicator. It's something that we all need to learn, how to use story to make sense out of something and to convey information. And that's why I wanted to include this particular speech in how this famous creative artist does it. So at this point, I will have Julie and others give a feedback on what did you think of it when you watched this story that he tells in this speech that he gives.
Hi, Jay. Thanks. Yeah, this was a very inspiring story, and I really hear what you say about listening to the whisper. When I listened to his speech, one of the first things I got was the message, the power of the message, which is he starts out with saying, when people ask me what I do, he starts with, I am a dream maker. And then he tells the story, and then he talks about how the message that came to him was very quiet, as you say. But he heard it and he listened with it. And what he said was something like, when you stay in that whisper, when you stay in that dream or in that sound and you align with it and you take your work out of it, that's not only your life's work, but that it is where you can benefit the whole world. So it probably is a speech to some commencement people. And yes, the story was very powerful because it was personal. It was relevant to the story he has. It created a certain amount of emotions. And I think emotions is the key component to a successful story. So I just want to underscore that the message was clear, even though subtle, and perhaps that's also what he's demonstrating, that it doesn't have to hit you in the head, but if you stay with it and that's what you can align with and commit to, that can become your life's work. So so the message I got was stay in your dream. And the lesson I got was sometimes it's not loud. Sometimes you have to listen quietly.
Yeah, yeah. His message was definitely that, but it's the way he conveys it. And the thing that I was kind of thinking about, like always, when I watched this speech, it's like, how would I have done it? How would I have done it? Like, and this speech has been viewed by more than 400,000 people, so people are definitely interested in how he got his start. But the thing is that if he doesn't tell the story, then is the message, does it come across that clearly? That's the question, right? Because he's using a technique of using a story to convey a message. And the stories are kind of interesting because I consider story as creative nonfiction at best, and at worst, manipulative fiction. So you have to be very careful on who's telling the story and why that person is telling the story. In this case, I didn't think he was manipulating us in any way because there was nothing for him to gain from telling the story and the message that he had. This was him saying, hey, this is my life. This is how I did it. And this is what has worked for me. And this story may help you explain how I came to be a director. So I didn't see any kind of manipulation there. Because sometimes what happens, Julie, is, and I don't know whether you agree, when somebody like in marketing or politicians or even in sales, when they start with a story, I am very hesitant to really I'll listen to it, but I'm always like, what's your motivation for telling me that story? Because I know it's a very effective tool and you have mastered it. But at the end of the day, you are selling something to me. And that story is your way of making me feel for you, right? So this is just me. I have my guards up when people start with a story, when I know that there is something that they're trying to sell me that is of self-interest and in a financial way or some ways. I'll give you a point. Richard Nixon, and all politicians do this, right? Like in America, every politician, when they're running for office, they all make their father look like the biggest loser that ever lived, right? Like Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, it's always that. So people feel like, wow, these people have a tremendous story. The story sells, right? But it's manipulative in some sense because, like, I don't go around talking about my dad all the time, I just don't do that. But that's me, okay? And evidently, it's a marketing tool. It works, and people use it. But you still have to be careful because just recently in America, we had this anchorman named of NBC News, Brian Williams, who basically got fired or demoted from his job simply because he told a story too well. Okay, that's essentially what it came down to. He's a reporter. He lives by telling stories. But you can't cross the edge when, is that a creative nonfiction or is it a manipulative fiction? So you've got to be very careful. And Julie, I wanted to get your thoughts on it because a lot of people always talk about that if you want to be a good communicator, you have to tell stories, but they never tell you that you want to be careful because stories in itself are not something that can be factually ever checked. And you want to be careful that you don't go over the edge because sooner and later you may lose that credibility. So I wanted to get your take on that. What do you think of that?
Yeah, thanks, Jay. I haven't thought about this at all. I would say that stories can be fiction or nonfiction. I think part of the integrity is to making that clear. Certainly many fables and myths are stories, and Joseph Campbell is the father of stories. I don't know if everything he says is true, but I agree with you that when we start telling stories, we need to be clear about whether it's true or not. And yeah, with that, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think stories are very powerful. As you just said, that Joseph Campbell's Journey of a Hero or something, it's a very powerful, you hear it everywhere. My main point was when it comes to public speaking, that everything you read, every article, there's always, if you go on Twitter feeds or anything, if you do a search, you'll see all kinds of stories where they say, hey, if you want to be an effective speaker, you better know how to tell good stories. And one of the best storyteller that America has ever produced was Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln honed this ability, this talent when he was very young. He used to tell stories to children. And then later on, he was able to tell just amazing stories that just resonated. And he was a great storyteller, and that was his talent. That's what I think got him elected and made him one of the greatest presidents this country's ever produced. and you will find that same people who get to the top are very good at telling stories. My whole point is that story there is a good side of a story that gets your message across, but then there's also a bad side of the story where you could be very manipulative, and you have to be very careful on how you use stories, because sometimes it may not work as you intended to. That's all. Do you have any closing comments on that, Julie, or?
Yeah, thanks. That you made it clear that the storytelling is like any tool. You had to understand the underbelly of it, and certainly, as I move ahead, I'm going to be more aware of stories and how they're used. So, thank you.
Yeah, no, definitely tell stories. I just think, I mean, my main point was, maybe I didn't make it very clearly, is that when people rely on, if you have a point that you want to convey and a story can help you convey that faster, better, and more effectively, definitely use it. My whole point is that sometimes people overdo it. And another thing which we didn't get to cover is, don't tell a story if you're not good at telling stories. That could be, it's just like humor. Don't try to be funny if you're not funny, okay? And a lot of people tell stories, and sometimes like, where is this going? You know, has this person ever told this story to anybody, or nobody's ever told them that your story doesn't really make any sense? What's the point here? So again, when you're telling story, you're acting. You better be good at it. Otherwise, it could backfire, okay? So at this point, I want to close out this session, and thank you all for watching this particular segment. And we're going to now move on to the closing thoughts, and I will let Julie give her closing thoughts, and then I'll wrap it up.
Sorry. Thanks. Yeah, I think that this was very great. So we're doing a meta process on today's speech. So I thought the theme was really good, was on feedback, and telling a story, and then actually a peer feedback. I really like all segments. I think one thing I would like to do is in the Google community, where Jay will post this these segments, I will have some specific suggestions for Penny on how to make the closure a little stronger. Just invite you to join the Google Learning community called the Public Speaking Cohort to see my posts. Thank you.
Yeah, so let me at this point thank Julie for actively participating. I want to thank Somyan. He tried to join in, but evidently he had some technical difficulties, so we didn't get his viewpoints on many of these topics. I know he had prepared really hard for these this particular show today, and I feel bad that we could not hear him. Hopefully, and I want to thank Penny Liu for sending us her video and giving us an opportunity to not only give her feedback on her speech, but also use that to help others. So I want to thank Penny for her contribution. You have really helped not only yourself, but you have helped others. And the other thing is, Penny, it's very hard to really, there's a lot more we could say in this your speech. So some of it we're going to have to do it through email, and if you want to re-record it based on the feedback we have given, certainly we encourage you to keep recording it so you can see the progression that you're making. Since that was your first take, which I thought was fairly good, I think if you keep recording it, you will see the improvement you're making. So keep on doing it. Don't make this like a one and done thing, because the whole purpose is to keep on improving. Speech is not a one event. It's an ongoing event. You're constantly getting better. So we want to thank you for that. And at this point, I want to close out this show and thank you all for watching. And as always, Julie, before we close it out, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, if they want your personal help, what is the best way for somebody to reach you? If they want to have a more in-depth discussion with you on how you can help them with their public speaking, or if they have any kind of fear, because you tend to incorporate other techniques like meditation and mindfulness. So what is the best way for somebody to reach you who's watching this show?
Oh, thanks, Jay. Yes, the best way is probably just connect me via email. and that is JULIECLW999 JulieCLW39 You can also post on the Google community where Jay is leading, or the one I am. That's both under public speaking, and I check those messages regularly, but not no guarantees.
Right. And Julie, yeah, I will include that when I post this. I'll include the ways that people can get in touch with you, so that way they may have some specific questions that they may not want to share with the entire community. Sometimes people want that personal one-on-one contact. So I'll include that information, and obviously you can send me feedback at JAYOZA@digit5toolgroup.com, and I'll include that information. Also, I have a website, phytoolgroup.com, and certainly contact me, Julie, and Somyan, and I'll include Somyan's details if you want to reach out to Somyan. Okay, we're all here to help you. We're all here to support you. So anything we can do to help you, and if you have any comments, suggestions, or anything we can improve this program, please let us know, okay? Because that's the only way it's going to get better. So at this point, thank you all, and we'll see you next week.